When Derek and I settled into our brand new home, I truly believed this was it. A fresh beginning, pristine walls, no more upstairs neighbors, and sunlight streaming onto the breakfast table. For years, I had been working out of a cramped apartment, using a fold-out desk in the corner of the bedroom, constantly balancing UX deadlines with household chores. Now, I had a proper office, a guest room, and a kitchen island where I could actually move. Derek was thrilled, and rightfully so. This house was his brainchild from start to finish. His construction firm built it, and he obsessed over every detail, treating it like a sacred monument. To him, it was proof that he could provide. To me, it was meant to be our sanctuary. The first time his parents visited, everything seemed fine. His dad made a stiff comment about the quartz countertops being too flashy, and his mom critiqued my lighting choices as though she were a design expert on HGTV. But I let it slide, thinking they'd visit occasionally, admire the progress, and leave. However, soon it became a regular thing. Every Sunday they'd casually say, "Oh, we were just nearby. It's easier to eat here. Less cleanup for us." And of course they'd bring pie, store-bought and still frozen. The most frustrating part? They never asked. They just walked in, sat down, and took over. Glenn would turn the living room TV into a sports bar, blasting games, while Sandra would perch herself on a stool in the kitchen, scrutinizing how I season the chicken. "You don't use garlic powder?" she'd ask, blinking at me as though I'd confessed to not using soap. I'd laugh and explain I preferred fresh garlic, and she'd tilt her head, as if that was suspicious. Derek would smile, kiss her cheek, and tell her she looked great. He never once stepped in to mediate or even acknowledge that I was cooking for 5 people instead of 2, while also hosting, cleaning, and trying to stay awake for Monday meetings. The guest room, which I had hoped to turn into a yoga space, was slowly becoming their napping station. "Your couch hurts Glenn's back," Sandra explained after their 3rd Sunday nap. "The guest bed is better for his posture." I kept my feelings to myself. What was I supposed to say? Stop visiting your son? It felt petty. Yet inside something was simmering, a quiet, tight frustration. I began to dread the sound of tires pulling into the driveway. One evening after they left, I said to Derek gently, "Maybe we could have a quiet weekend next time, just the 2 of us?" He looked up from his phone confused. "What do you mean?" I hesitated. "I don't know. It's been nonstop. I'd love a Sunday without someone commenting on my mashed potatoes." He chuckled. "They mean well, Kimberly. Come on, you're overthinking this." I was always the overthinker. That was my role, the considerate one. So the next week, while we were cooking dinner, I tried a different approach. I was slicing bell peppers when I casually said, "Hey, I was thinking maybe my parents could stay one night next month. Just a weekend visit. They haven't seen the house yet." Derek froze for a second. "Your parents overnight?" "Just one night," I said. "We could cook something together. Keep it low-key." He made a face like I had just suggested a tax audit. "Kim, no offense, but your dad makes me feel like I'm at a job interview. And your mom, she doesn't, I don't know. I'd have to be on around them." I blinked. "Be on?" "Yeah, like polite. Watching what I say, making conversation." I dropped the knife a bit too loudly on the cutting board. "You mean be a decent human being?" "Don't twist it," he replied. "I'm just saying, I can't relax around them. They're not as laid back as my parents." That was when I realized that, in his mind, my comfort was secondary. Or maybe it didn't even register. "You do realize," I said, "that I've been hosting your parents every week, cooking for them, cleaning up after them, and listening to your mom lecture me about towel folding. And you think you're the one who has to be on for one night?" He didn't respond. He just shrugged and went back to stirring the pot. Later that week, I came home from running errands and found 2 large rolling suitcases by the front door. Sandra appeared in the hallway beaming. "Hope you don't mind. We thought we'd stay a few nights. Glenn's back is bothering him again, and it's easier not to drive back and forth." I stood there, keys still in hand. "A few nights. Just until Wednesday." Derek said it was fine. When I found Derek in the kitchen, he acted like everything was normal. "It's just a couple of days. You know how they are. Besides, it's not a big deal." Not a big deal. My heart was pounding in my chest. I went upstairs to the guest room, only to find it already unmade. Sandra's silk robe hung over the chair, and Glenn's slippers were by the door, as though they had been living here for years. I stood there, staring at the room, which used to be mine in a small, symbolic way. The space where I'd hung eucalyptus bundles, lit candles, and dreamt of journaling again. Now it smelled like menthol cream and cheap aftershave. At dinner that night, Sandra asked if I could switch the laundry detergent. The lavender one you use makes Glenn's skin itch, she said. Glenn added, the water pressure in the upstairs shower is a bit rough. Any way to fix that? I smiled thinly. Sure, I'll add it to my list. Then I glanced across the table at Derek, who was eating as though nothing had changed. That night, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling fan. Their footsteps echoed down the hallway. My head buzzed. My muscles ached from holding in every reaction I wasn't allowed to express. Derek snored softly beside me. And somewhere between midnight and 2 a.m., I realized I had two choices. I could keep playing the good wife, the flexible hostess, the doormat in designer sweatpants, or I could quietly remove myself and let the house become the home for the people who loved it so much. I turned over, grabbed my phone from the nightstand, and texted just one person. Vanessa. Hey, you still have that guest room? Her reply came instantly, always. I didn't know what my next step would be, but something had shifted. I wasn't angry, at least not yet. But I was done. And the funny thing was, Derek hadn't noticed a thing. The next morning, I made Derek's coffee the way he liked it, extra hot, splash of oat milk, and left it on the counter without a word. He didn't notice I hadn't made one for myself. Sandra was already in the kitchen, wearing my robe. Kimberly, do you have any chamomile tea that's less flowery? My stomach's a bit off. I pulled it out and handed it to her without a smile. A few minutes later, Glenn shuffled in, yawning loudly, and turned on the TV, volume 39. I had never felt like such a stranger in my own home. But now my movements were quieter, smaller, as though I were the one visiting, trying not to disturb anyone. By Tuesday night, Derek casually mentioned that they would stay through the weekend. It's just easier since they're already here. No point in making them pack up twice. I blinked at him from across the bathroom sink. They've been here 5 days. It's temporary, is it? He avoided my gaze. That night, I had to finish a UX redesign pitch from the upstairs office, now filled with Sandra's craft supplies and Glenn's spare golf clubs. I worked cross-legged from the corner of the bed, while Sandra folded laundry beside me. My files were scattered on the floor. At one point, Glenn opened the door without knocking, asking where the HDMI cable was. I didn't look up. Try the drawer in the TV stand. After he left, Sandra asked, do you always work this late? I nodded, jaw tight. It's quieter at night. She looked up from fluffing a towel. You should really think about boundaries. ChatGPT said. Work-life balance truly matters, but that's when I almost laughed. The following day, as Derek and his parents went out for a late brunch without inviting me, I reached out to Vanessa. You sound like you're about to destroy a throw pillow, she said. I'm close. Come stay here. It's not that simple. Vanessa paused, lowering her voice as though someone could overhear her. All right, make it complicated. Play it smart. You know that's your thing. Smart how? She laid out a plan. It was absurd but perfect. That evening, I told Derek my aunt in Portland had fallen and broken her wrist, that she had no one to help her, and that I needed to go for a few days. He barely glanced up from his phone. Are you driving or flying? Driving, it's quicker, I replied. Drive safe, he shrugged. Sandra and Glenn seemed more interested in whether I'd cooked anything before leaving. We don't want to mess up your kitchen system, Sandra winked. I packed light, just a small bag, no suitcases, no dramatics. Before leaving, I placed a single envelope on my nightstand. Inside, there was a short note. I'll be gone for a while. If you need space, now you have it. Kimberly. I didn't feel guilty. Vanessa greeted me at her door with a bottle of wine and a look that said, finally. Her apartment wasn't big, but it was warm and peaceful. I set up my laptop on her guest table, lit a candle, and breathed a sigh of relief for the first time in weeks. Back home, Derek was puzzled by the silence. He called me the next morning. I let it go to voicemail, then sent a text. Missed the last train, staying another day. Another day, then another. By the 5th day, a moving truck pulled up outside. Sandra spotted it first through the window. Oh, they must be delivering something for Kimberly. 2 movers stepped out, hauling boxes labeled Langford and Master Bedroom. Sandra opened the door, confused. Excuse me, what's going on? One of the movers handed her a clipboard. Sunrise Relocation, ma'am. We have a work order for moving furniture. The address matches. You're the Langfords. Glenn stepped in, confirming. The movers began unloading. A full-size mattress, dressers, a recliner, boxes of cookware. Glenn blinked. This must be a mistake. The mover pointed at the manifest. It says here the delivery is for Glenn and Sandra. New residence, 912 Silver Hill Lane. Sandra's mouth opened, then closed. By the time Derek came home, the guest room was rearranged, their clothes filled the closets, and the mailbox now had a small sticker under our names. And parents. He walked in, dropped his keys, and said, "What the hell is going on?" Sandra beamed. "Isn't this great? Kimberly said we could use this space while she's away. We figured since you're alone now." Glenn added. She even arranged the movers. Derek stared at the envelope on the nightstand, the same one I had left. He opened it again, as if expecting something different. It hadn't changed. He tried calling me again. No answer. He texted, "Kimberly, come on. We need to talk." 3 hours later I replied, "Can't talk. You're busy hosting. Hope it's going well." At Vanessa's I cooked dinner in peace. I watched a movie on the couch, slept until 9 a.m. without being disturbed by the sound of a toilet flushing down the hall. The first week without me, Derek tried to hold it together. He texted, "I've got this. You'll see." 2 days later, he sent a photo of a half-cooked lasagna with the caption, "Chef Derek in action." But by the second week, the tone of his messages changed. "Do you know where the vacuum bags are? The washer smells weird. Is that normal? Your mom's roast chicken recipe. Where is it?" I didn't reply. Vanessa saw me reading his texts and said, "It's incredible how fast it goes from no big deal to help me, I'm drowning." Meanwhile, Sandra was calling me every other day. I finally picked up once. "Kimberly, sweetheart, are you planning on coming back anytime soon?" "Why? You've got the whole house." "Well, it's just that Glenn and I thought this was temporary." "So did I." She paused. "Derek seems stressed. He misses you." I didn't answer. What I didn't say was that Derek was finally experiencing everything I had for months. The noise, the constant demands, the lack of privacy, and the endless questions. He texted me 3 days later. "I'm sorry. This is hard. I didn't realize how much you were juggling." Then he added, "But they're my parents. I can't kick them out." That line said everything. I made a decision. I emailed him a digital copy of a separation agreement I'd had drafted by a lawyer Vanessa knew. Not divorce, not yet, but a clear boundary. The house. I had contributed most of the down payment. The mortgage was in both our names, but the title was under mine. Derek had insisted I didn't need to be on everything, that it was all ours. Now that worked in my favor. He called me the next morning, panicked. "Kimberly, what is this?" "A boundary in writing." "You're really doing this over a couple of weekends?" "It's never just a couple weekends and you know it." There was silence for a long time before he said, "I can't afford this place on my own." "I know." He sighed. "Are you asking me to move out?" "No, I'm just saying if they're staying, I'm not." For 2 more weeks, Derek tried. He asked his mom to cook, she refused. He asked his dad to fix the dishwasher, he ignored it. Sandra refused to do laundry, saying she didn't want to touch my things. Glenn left takeout containers in the sink. Derek started eating out, fast food, then microwave dinners. He stopped reading my messages. Then came the final straw. He overdrew the joint account. I froze the card. When he called in a fury, I picked up calmly. "You're not entitled to funds I'm not using. We're separated." "You froze the account," he said. "I moved my direct deposit. You should do the same." He cursed under his breath, then said it. "Maybe we should sell the house." That's up to you, I said. But if you do, I get first right of refusal. It's in the paperwork. A week later, I saw the house listed online. I clicked the link. The photos showed a cluttered living room, mismatched chairs, old magazines, Glenn's foot massager. The kitchen had sticky notes on every drawer. Do not touch. In one shot, a pile of laundry sat on the guest bed. It was both heartbreaking and hilarious. Vanessa peered over my shoulder. Looks like a Craigslist bachelor pad with a parental chaperone. And to think I used to light candles in that bathroom. Eventually, Derek sold the house below market value. The realtor's comment read, "Motivated seller, flexible timeline, minor repairs needed." I didn't buy it back. I didn't need to. I had already found a new place, a small rental townhouse. It wasn't fancy, but it had a balcony, a deep tub, and no one walking in uninvited. I worked, I slept, I visited my parents and hosted brunches with friends. I didn't fold anyone else's laundry but my own. Months later, I ran into a mutual friend of Derek's at a cafe. She didn't recognize me at first and commented that I looked glowier. "How's Derek?" I asked. She shrugged. "Living with his parents for now. It's a lot." I nodded. It always was. Back at Vanessa's, we toasted to peace. She asked, "Do you regret anything?" I thought for a moment. "I regret not leaving sooner." She smiled. "Want me to help you draft the divorce filing?" "Already done," I replied. We clinked glasses. The house was gone. The weight was gone. I hadn't just left a building. I had walked away from a pattern. When Sandra called months later and left a message asking to meet for coffee, I deleted it without listening to the rest. Sometimes peace looks like absence. Sometimes it sounds like silence. And sometimes it feels like waking up alone in your own home and breathing. Really breathing.